It is week 9. The NFL season rolls into November. It's Thanksgiving season, and I am thankful to have my two co-hosts with me tonight on the Shoot the Gap pod. Jorge Edwards, Hollywood Titan. Hollywood, I want to start off, I want to give congratulations because it's really fun when your team is as successful as it's been. That's and right. Even more so when they're beating the rest of the Kentucky. SEC because, well, yeah, but that's, I mean, come on, that's like beating up your little brother.
No, we're just that's what I was alluding to. I'm sorry, the Bull Puppies. You're saying the Georgia Bulldogs
next on the list. Like Chris Jericho said, you're next on the list, baby. Come get you some.
I think Jericho just said you just made the list, but
well, you know, strings. Semantics. As I said, I'm Nate Markham. Welcome to Shoot the Gap, the IDP podcast for the Fantasy and Frames Podcast Network. I was not here last week. We're getting close to getting the four of us all back together. I know everybody's busy. Mike Wohlert, who is unfortunately a little under the weather, could not join us. I'm sure next week we'll all be back. And on the heels of the Fourth and Frames podcast, next week, I would like to do another redraft type, little pod, because I think from an IDP standpoint, as much as we saw from the offensive side how chaotic it can be, I think the IDP side might be, there's players like we mixed out. Don't get me wrong, like I joked around. Jonathan Taylor, Hollywood, you saw that, went as like the RB13. Rightfully so. Ankle injury, offense slacking. But there's players like L'Jarius Sneed. Wasn't even on the radar necessarily as far as a potential DB1 to be, talked about. Hufanga. The list could go on and on. Maybe next week we'll reach out and see if any of our listeners maybe would like to join us. Maybe we can find one or two that might want to jump in and take advantage of doing so. But before we do, this week, as I said, we're getting into the thankful season of Thanksgiving. I am thankful for you guys. I am not thankful for bye weeks. The bye weeks this week.
I'm just thankful that you're wearing that Titan blue on your shirt there.
No,
especially on Chief Week, baby.
Exactly. You're welcome. And I see a runner-up Steve McNair jersey back there. That's nice. Is that a ribbon? Second place on there? Oh. Everybody gets ribbons. R.I.P. McNair.
Stop taking shots at McNair. That's horrible.
That's okay. This is where we're at, Jorge. This is where we're at. This is how we
shots
play right
here. Landed. Shots landed. Wow.
We're all going to hell.
So we are. Let's let Kevin Byard bygone. You know what? Let's go on to the bye weeks. From bye weeks to Byard, from Byard to bye weeks. Both of which were a letdown, unfortunately. This week, Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, the Giants, Pittsburgh, and the 49ers are all on bye. It's a big list of names, fellas. We got Deion Jones, JOK maybe, kind of. Maybe that's JK. Who knows? Myles Garrett, maybe John Johnson the third, but most importantly, DeMarcus Lawrence. Or, Jorge, who was that? DeMarcus Ware? DeMarcus Ware is not playing either. Micah Parsons, Vander Esch, Curse, Donovan Wilson. The list goes on and on. And we have to find some players that are going to, I would say, help ease that burden a little bit. But before we get into some players that might help this week, let's take a look around because it was also, I believe, the most fun-filled trade deadline that I have been part of in quite some time. Would you guys agree, Hollywood?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I think Jorge. I read something that, or heard something that it was, this year was double the most trades this year in the past 10 or 12 years that we've had.
Oh, yeah. It sounds about right. It was, and they weren't just like little piddly ones. Jacob Martin, I think, is who it was from the Jets that went to Denver. Might have been like the most whoop-de-doo. But, Jorge, maybe move that mic back the way it was before you were given a little reverb. Thanks a lot. That's perfect. Worse. I'll meet you while you tend to that.
Aliens coming through the.
Are we good now?
We're much better now. We are. Nope. We're back to muting you. So, Hollywood, you and I will discuss a little bit about
you.
This
just
one trade.
Bossman's out. It's just me and you, bro.
Gone. I want to ask your opinion. Roquan Smith to the Ravens. What we've seen so far is that Mike Macdonald, to me, is a little more aggressive than even what Wink Martindale was in Baltimore. We see that with Patrick Queen. Pass rush snaps are up. The pressures are up as a result. With Roquan not necessarily seeing that as much in Eberflus's system, or Eberflus's, I'm sorry, do you think that there's a chance that we get even a higher ceiling out of Roquan, or do you think that the chance that their defense is so good that they're not going to be on the field that much might lower that ceiling?
No, I think we're going to see a better Roquan. Much better. Sentence to Patrick Queen. I mean, that was just nail in the coffin right there, right? Just for everybody that was going for dear life, that was it. Final nail in the coffin. I think he's done. Now, I think he'll have a role as a secondary guy, but Roquan, he's the new dude in town, new sheriff, and he's taken over. And I think with that role, he's going to be the dude. He's the guy.
Isn't it crazy? Like a few weeks ago, we were talking about, Blake Martinez would be the perfect addition to this linebacking core.
Yes, we would.
And it's like, hello, now you're getting probably one of the best, if not the best linebacker in all of football to join.
It was
crazy.
It really is. And it does have me a little, I will tell you right now, maybe a little foreshadowing that I'm not as thrilled this Monday night to have Roquan in my lineup necessarily, because I think that Patrick Queen might still see enough. Over under, you guys, this week, this Monday, if Patrick Queen snaps over under 65% of the snaps this week only.
I think he goes over, to be honest with you. I think it's one of those things where they're getting Roquan up to speed. They just need to lean on the veteran presence there. Now, the week after?
No, the week after is a bye week. That's why
that's definitely.
Then that just answers your question right there. This week, yes, bye week, and then after that,
Patrick
it's
Queen,
done. It's a done deal.
Checkmate. You're gone. It's time for Roquan.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Chicago side, though. Jorge, I know that, and you and Hollywood both probably heard me wax poetic about Nicholas Morrow and how he's going to be an LB2 this season, low end, maybe high end LB3 at the worst. I was all hyped and pumped about the situation. Is the second half an upside play for Nicholas Morrow, Jorge?
Absolutely. For all the reasons you were listing in the preseason and what we were hoping to see right there next to Roquan Smith there. No Roquan Smith anymore. You look at his time in Las Vegas or with the Raiders, Oakland, Las Vegas. No, he was there when they were just in Oakland with the Raiders, regardless. Just a dynamic player, he's not like a world setting on fire person, but he's solid LB3, LB2 player upside for you. Probably leaning more towards the 3 now. I kind of need to see more of what he does when he's thrust into the starting role as the guy. He's always been a part of a tandem, whether it was with Corey Littleton in Las Vegas or with Roquan Smith in Chicago. So it's going to be interesting to see what is he going to do as the guy. But the opportunity is there on a bad team. They're on the field a lot, the defense, that is. He has the keys to keys to some car. It's what he does with it from here on out.
Yep. So it might be an 86 Buick, but you know what? That bad boy's still going to roll, still going to ride. It's comfortable. It's comfortable. The thing is, it's not bumpy. It's not like that.
It's a cruiser. It's a cruising car.
Cruise. You're just going to go. And we're going to see that, Don't forget that he's done what we all want is produce across the board in the past. So let's hope that maybe we can see a little bit of that. He has 3 tackles for a loss. That's about the only glowing positive that I'll give on top of decent tackle total, tackle volume, nothing much else. Hollywood, a trade that I think is going to be impactful multiple different ways, was the Bradley Chubb trade to the Miami Dolphins, along with the 2025 fifth round pick for the 23rd first overall, the 24 fourth overall, and Chase Edmonds is a throw-in just because he's kind of blah anymore. But Bradley Chubb, guys, this is something we normally haven't seen too much of. Teams getting rid of their, elite pass rush talent and getting a first round pick in return. I know we saw Khalil Mack do that, but outside of that, it's not the most common. So Hollywood in Miami, we're going to see this Emmanuel Ogbah, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb. You think the rotation, are they mimicking a little bit of the Buffalo Bills? Or do you think that Ogbah is kind of the odd man out now?
Well, I kind of do think Ogbah's the odd man out, but I also think that they're going to see a little bit of this rotation, right? I was listening to the Thursday night game, and they kind of mentioned this. There's like, if they win, being the Broncos, do they get rid of Chubb? If they lose, it was almost a foregone conclusion that they were going to move him. And that, they won and they still moved him. I think it's a good get for Miami. You've got Jalen Phillips, the young guy there who was a sensation a year ago. They've done the Melvin Ingram experiment. I think Chubb opposite of Phillips is the right move.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of move Emmanuel Ogbah. I think you can kind of kick him inside with Christian Wilkins. So, yeah, I do think they're trying to mimic what Buffalo's doing, because that's what everybody wants, right? If you can get pressure with your front four, you can get creative and do a lot of things with the back seven. And if you don't have those players up front, then that changes things. So I like this for Miami. I really do. Melvin Ingram, he was kind of later in his career, where Chubb still is kind of younger, has a lot left. And I think he's just a better talent. We'll see.
So, the Dolphins, if there's anything, they turned the 3 first-round picks that they got in exchange for allowing San Francisco to move up into elite talent. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, essentially, and now Bradley Chubb. They're young. Between that, Javon Holland in the back, they'll get Brandon Jones back healthy next year. Hopefully, they would love to see him in the postseason this year. But between all those guys, that front is dynamic. Or is anybody on Denver take a step forward? Is Nick Benito someone that you think might just see more snaps and could do something with that?
Well, by default, right? Because isn't Baron Browning injured, or I saw that he was on the injury report. So, he's going to have to, somebody's going to have to fill in. And Benito, they were very high on. I think we did. In fact, I know we did defensive line edge breakdown after the draft. And I believe Benito was one of your guys that you were talking about way back in May. So, yeah, he definitely is going to get that opportunity. Volume is going to be there. And this offense for the Broncos sucks, which means they're going to be the defense again. Opportunity volume is going to be there, and quite frankly, they just don't have any really other options at this time. So it's one of those things where it's like, all right, let's roll you out there. Let's see what you got. That's my take on Benito.
For IDP purposes, I guess for super deep leagues, Jacob Martin got traded from the Jets to Denver. Jacob Martin is a depth piece, rotational, could have an impact with New York this year. When I look at it a little bit deeper, he had near a 16% pressure rate and a 16% win rate with a near 30% win rate on true pressure sets. And so the idea of Jacob Martin being something is worth monitoring. I don't think he'll be much, but I think it's a name that in a super depth piece where we're in these IDP only leagues and you're starting 4 defensive ends, it's someone that you might need to put a little a watch list item to. So something to consider. Jorge Hollywood, one of our Chidobe Awuzie fan club, he took a hit. Unfortunately, he's on the IR. I think Dax Hill might be a name to pay attention to. He might slide into that slot role a little bit. Kamu Grugier-Hill, you guys, goes to Arizona, of all places, where we have no clue what the hell is going to happen in linebackers. What does that mean? Hollywood, what did you, when you saw that, what was your takeaway from that?
My initial take was, can we trash this up any damn more than what it already is?
Yep,
Jesus Christ.
that's exactly
I mean,
right.
we already don't know what to do with Isaiah Zayvon Collins. You're going to throw Gruger Hill in here, who early in the year had some huge tackle numbers. What, week 1, week 2, whatever it was, he had the freaking monster tackle number game, and I'm like, ugh. And if I'm a Simmons or Collins owner, I'm just like, Jesus, what? I mean, I was already on the fence, but this is.
I mean, what can you
Woof.
do? Like you said,
Yeah.
it is. It goes back to week 1. I mean, granted, there was like 95 snaps that he was on the field, and he was heavily targeted. And maybe I just don't know what the benefit is. Here's a team that already.
I mean, even if they picked him up as a depth piece, right?
Yeah.
Gruger Hill, even if they took him as a depth piece, what does that tell you? They're not fully sold on Simmons. They're not fully sold on Collins. I mean, that's a red flag somewhere. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So,
Right.
oof.
Hollywood, let me round out the notes on one that hits close to home for you. Chase Young designated a return to practice.
No shit.
Chase Young, I know. I feel like bust is written across his forehead, maybe unfairly. He's shown flashes of brilliance.
Glad I sold him when I could.
You did very well, because a lot of us couldn't, a lot of us didn't, and it was he can't be much
and I
worse.
almost didn't. I have to say I had reservations, even though I got good deals.
Yeah,
I had reservations about him because I thought he was going to be.
I mean,
but that quote unquote generational type player.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
and he still may be, right? He still may be, but I just, with what all is going on, I'm glad I got what I could.
Jorge, let's say he's on waivers right now, and you're not picking him up.
Nope.
That speaks volumes to me. That says everything I need.
For me, if Chase Young coming back only sends for me Montez Sweat to the moon.
Okay,
I see a little more attention drawn his way, and I'm a huge Montez Sweat fan. Yeah, definitely the one I want attention. And if you look back to when Chase Young during his rookie year, towards the latter half, once he finally starting to translate a lot of those pressures into sacks, you're looking at the performances there. I feel like the sack totals were kind of like 1-to-1 between him and Sweat, as well as the tackles leaning more towards Sweat's direction. We're looking at the fantasy point production again. Both these guys, they were playing lights out. They were reminding me from a fantasy standpoint. Like, do you remember back in the day when it was Chubb his rookie year next to Von Miller, and both of these defensive ends were both fantasy viable because they were both just getting to the quarterback and just wreaking havoc. That's what you were seeing from Montez Sweat and Chase Young towards the middle of the season, Chase Young's rookie year. So if Chase Young can come back and he can be somewhat good again.
See, that's the thing, because he was
not good last year.
So talented. He's so young and so talented. There's that.
Mm-hmm.
There's that still hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he can still be that guy. If he was a little bit older, we're diminishing this, we're washing it. But because he's so young, because he's so good, I think a lot of people are holding on to him, and I get it. But like I said, I had second thoughts about trading him for what I got, but
he's 23.
As
23.
Exactly. But right now, if I'm a fantasy manager and traded him for what I got, I'm gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even me thinking, okay, I got a good deal, I'm still thinking, damn, did I get out too early?
There's something we said for, like, I'd rather just not have the headache.
Yeah. You have to get past the FOMO.
Well,
you have to put that aside.
With you being a Commander fan,
easy.
Like Nate said, that's kind of interesting, right? Right. That you're willing to, I don't want to say give up, but you're willing to move him or go on from him.
No, not move him per se. I would not seek him out.
Yeah.
If that, and I think that's a little bit different. Like if I had him,
If somebody's
know if
giving you a first for him, you're moving him. You can't tell me. You're
Oh
not.
yeah.
No, of course. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
not
yeah,
even a.
yeah.
I think
If
you're
somebody's
talking
giving
about
you a second, you're moving him, right?
Yes. High second, but yes.
Okay.
it'd have to be a high, and after that, I'm
so
saying
high second. So you're going to draw the line at mid second to third. That's going to be your.
That's a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a package. That's a package trade there.
Yeah, because look at the
I
players
think
that went in that spot before. But and that's the one thing we'll see with Chase Young.
And I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just
No, good.
I think in fantasy football or whatever we're doing, everybody knows I'm a Titans fan. Everybody knows that Nate's a Chiefs fan. That Jorge is a Washington fan. You listen to the national media, but that's one thing. But I love these, like us talking about Chase Young and Jorge being a Washington fan, because I think he's more in tune with what's going on. He's got more of a realistic idea of the value of what's going on with that organization, that player.
Mm-hmm.
I just value that more.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Listening to the sports media up until this week and hearing about he's coming back. Every city has the sports stations that blow smoke up their fans. You know what? Even if their team is atrocious, they can't call it right down the middle. You have the radio stations that are just constantly negative, can't find a good thing to say. Then you have the ones that are like they walk that line. I like listening to the ones that walk the line. Even they are like, yeah, he's coming back to practice. We'll see.
Yeah. Go back to that 2020 season, that the season that we all looked at and we're like, okay, this has the making of something special. And if we look beyond just the paper and we look deeper and we see a pressure rate that's around 7%, and we see pressure totals where he had 7 or 8 games that he had less than 2 pressures each game. It doesn't just stand out. And that didn't change in 2021 either. So that it became a trend that he has these big games, but no one's going to doubt there's people that are much smarter than us that evaluated him through high school, college, and drafted him, with the first pick, or not first pick. Was he first pick? Was second pick?
He was second pick.
Second pick. Sorry. Yeah. So I'll tell you what, there's nothing better than looking at, if we could go back 3 years ago and after the draft, if the question money or mirage for Chase Young was asked, I think it would be unanimous. It was money. Couldn't miss, right, Jorge? As far as we were concerned.
Yeah.
Let's talk about going forward for this season, 2022, where take a look at some of these waiver wire gems, if you will, and see what you guys think, if they're going to be money plays for us IDP managers, or if they're simply a mirage and we should avoid. Let's start with the first one, who's coming off the best game of his season by far, Leonard Floyd, Los Angeles Rams. The only person, essentially, not Aaron Donald, that is getting pressure last week, that is. But guys, what do we take from last week? Do we think that was just simply the showing of, what's to come? Or was that simply a mirage to avoid? Hollywood, what do you think?
Yes, I think he's a mirage. I'm not biting on the breakout games of the season. I know this week he had a huge breakout, right? But before that, he did nothing. Really nothing. So I'm not going to chase that mirage, if you will. I need to see more consistency. I need to see more output. And I just don't think it's there for him. It's kind of been his whole MO for his whole career, right? He's had some big games, but he's not been one that you can really trust.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. It's been kind of the same old. Granted, don't get me wrong. The last 2 years, sack totals were incredible. but it just wasn't consistent. It seemed like those blow-up games, kind of like we saw last week, right, Jorge?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I looking at the fantasy points, like going back to week 1, 7.8, 1.5, 3.8, 8.5, 3.8, 3.8, and then last week 22.8. Like that's like I'm sorry, like one of these does not seem like the other. And we're talking about Rams, defensive players. Let's be honest, like who are we starting for the Rams outside of Aaron Donald or Bobby Wagner? And feeling comfortable doing that.
Exactly. The Ernest Jones start for fun, just to mess with people. I mean, honestly, that's about it. So we got 2 mirages for Leonard Floyd. I'm right there with you guys. Jorge, let me ask you one. Philadelphia Eagles defensive tackle Javon Hargrave, also coming off of an amazing game, really coming off of back-to-back great games. Could be in line for a pretty solid matchup this week or maybe going forward. What do you think about Javon Hargrave?
With the acquisition of Robert Quinn, it makes me wonder whether or not this is the player that has his output diluted, and Robert Quinn is the one who kind of like swaps in and out with him along the defensive line. I'm concerned with that. But Hollywood, you actually wrote him up a little bit better than I did. So why don't you take that away?
Yeah, so I think we've had high expectations for him, right? Since coming over from Pittsburgh. So I think for this season, especially the near part of the season, the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think he's money. I love the matchups that he has the next 3 weeks. Houston, Washington, and Indianapolis. Houston, Davis Mills has been nothing special. Washington, Wentz is gone. They're rolling with Tyler Heineke. And now you got Indianapolis, who's going with
Sam Ehlinger.
Sam Ehlinger.
Yeah. I
mean, if he doesn't do it the next 3 weeks, I don't think he's going to. But for the rest of the season, especially immediately, I think he's money. After that, if he doesn't do it these next 3 weeks, I think he's a mirage. But for now, I think he's money.
Yeah, and you touched on the one area that I just think it's crazy not to think that somebody across that Pittsburgh or the Philadelphia defensive line is not going to absolutely eat is Houston, Washington, Indianapolis. 3 of the lower ranked offensive lines, especially interior offensive lines, that have been allowing pressure palooza, if you want to call it that. I don't think that's a real good term. I really don't like the paloozas. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like bipocalypse. I'm not a, pressure palooza type person, but I
thought that was great. I thought that was perfect.
Well, hey, if I got your vote of approval, confidence, that's all I can really ask for in life. Let me ask you a question. Are you putting your stamp of approval on Peyton Turner this week, Jorge?
No. He had a 4 total tackle game, 2 sacks, 17.5 points in Fantasy Pro scoring. Prior to that, only 3 total tackles, 2 assists and 1 solo. Hasn't gotten a lot of playing time, a lot of unknowns there. And Baltimore's left and right tackles this week, or for the season, have been playing lights out. It's that interior of the Baltimore offensive line that's been playing atrociously. I'm not about this. I'm not about Peyton Turner. It's a mirage for me.
Hollywood, this isn't. Yeah, even going forward, Hollywood, this isn't another Trey Hendrickson situation in New Orleans, is it? Where Peyton Turner finally, turns the corner, if you will, and starts getting big plays, and then, takes over, starts getting some snaps.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm with Jorge. It's a mirage, right? He's had some injuries. He gets the big game coming off an injury, but I got to pump the brakes until I can see more from him and him being more consistent. I think this was just an aberration. So, but he is young enough that you want to hold on to him, maybe. But for now, I'm going to go mirage.
From one young player to another, albeit a different position, Christian Harris, rookie linebacker with the Texans, has been a pretty popular waiver wire pickup. Hollywood, are you seeing Christian Harris as money, or is he another Mirage play?
No, I think he's money. I really do, because their overall talent depth is just trash. And they dropped Camus Grudger Hill, right? So that should tell you all you need to know. They dropped him, and Harris is back. He's kind of been injured the last few weeks. So they dropped Grudger Hill. Harris gets the immediate start. So that tells me immediately all I need to know. So straight cash, homie. I think this would have happened sooner had he not been injured. First start, he comes out, he gets 7 tackles, 5 solos. He played 100% of the snap count. Forget the 7 tackles and the 5 solos, which fantasy-wise, that's what we're after, right? You want the tackle numbers. You definitely want the solo tackle numbers. But that 100% snap count, and he's coming fresh off of an injury, that right there was the deal breaker right there.
Now, the best part about this Money in Mirage is when not everybody agrees. Jorge, are you going to agree with Hollywood that you think Christian Harris is money?
Jorge doesn't know what I know.
Ooh.
He's over at Taylor Swift, man.
Hey, you take it easy on Tay Tay. All right, let's be real here.
Oh shit, he just called her Tay Tay. Oh,
yes, I did.
Speaking of that, real quick, not that it matters, but
IDP pod, exactly.
Did you see that she occupies every spot in the Billboard top 10?
Top 10? Crazy.
No, I didn't see that.
Shocking.
She doesn't exist unless the boss man tells me she does.
Regardless,
which, by the way, apparently he's buying tickets for us to go see her somewhere at some point.
Well, she's going to be in Knoxville or Nashville, but I'll come pick you up on the road trip out there. It's cool.
She's not coming to St. Louis.
I hope you do. I hope you do.
Yeah, I'll pick you up and we'll go on a little road trip to go see Taylor Swift.
Okay.
I'll give you the shirt to wear so you can wear it.
Yeah.
I got a second place ribbon somewhere around here.
You know what, Nate? That will be the best part of the trip is you giving me that shirt.
Oh, I'm giving it to Jorge, not you. You're wearing your Steve McNair jersey, I'm sure.
I have no friends on this show. None.
Well, you have no allies. You have no allies this week for Christian Harris. I know we were talking about rest of season and everything you just said, Hollywood, 100% correct. You want the snaps, you want the tackle upside.
Well, then why do you not like him?
But for this week,
you're not seeing here?
So for this week, I don't like him. And so let me, when I think about inside linebackers and going against running backs, I like the running backs that are in the offenses that just come right at you, get through that defensive line, and just, hello, here you go. I'm in the middle linebacker. I'm the inside linebacker. Let me go wrap you up and tackle you. That is not what the Saints do at running back. If you look at Alvin Kamara's stats, if you look at all their running back stats, whether it's Ingram or whether they're using Taysom Hill, gadget plays, all of these runs for the majority, the majority of the runs here for the Saints all come off of left tackle or right tackle or around tight end blocks here. The number of rushing attempts show that. The effectiveness in yards per carry show that. And I get it. The Saints have been allowing the third most points to inside linebackers on the season. But we have to remember, these inside linebackers for the Texans have been playing not well. They have horrible missed tackle percentages. And so now you're asking these guys who are not great tacklers to go out, play sideline to sideline, and get these tackle numbers. I'm not seeing it this week. If anything, I'm actually more high on the safeties for this game for the IDP side for the Texans than I am actually for the linebackers, just because I think
Petrie. I do.
And even Murray, he had a good game last week. I know a game sample. I know I'm not trying to blow that out of proportion.
See, and I'm going to stop here because not stop you, but I just want to mention what I've seen about Murray so I don't forget. Is it Lovie Smith did come out and say that Eric Murray is not the starter, that Jonathan Owens will be the starter again. That was just a temporary switch. But continue what you're saying. Didn't mean to throw you off topic. Just
no. Whether it's Owens or Murray or whoever, the tackle upside is going to be there for whoever is going to be there the majority of the game. Last week it was Murray. Previously it had been Owens until he got injured or they were on their bye. I just see the running backs getting past this second level of the defense, and it's really like the defensive backs are going to have to come in and kind of assist with that, just because of this missed tackle percentage for Kirksey and Harris. If anything, Kirksey has the lesser of the two evils, so I'm kind of leaning Kirksey in this matchup. If there was going to be an upside play, so I'm saying Harris for me this week, average at best. Going forward, though, again, like you were saying, the snap count is in his favor. His solo to assist ratio, and he's a bulldozer, man. I'm not knocking him. Like I wrote him up on Fantasy and Frames earlier in the offseason. Love this guy's upside, but for right now, has not been playing, optimally.
That's fair. I think that's totally fair to have. You guys are welcome to both having different opinions, and we'll see if it works out.
I think the upside is with Harris, with Grugier Hill gone, and they don't really have anybody else that they're crazy about. Kirksey, Cashman, whoever. They're not going to run 4-7 or 3-8. And what I mean is 4 linemen, 3 linemen. They're not going to run 7-8 defensive backs. So there has to be some kind of linebacker there. And for him to come out and get 100% of the snaps fresh off of an injury, that tells me that Lovie Smith is in with him. And he got 7 tackles, right? Fantasy-wise, that's what we're looking at. He got 7 tackles, 5 solos. So for me, I think he's money because they don't have anybody else.
Well, you know what, Hollywood? You know what?
Gator don't play.
What? Tell me. I'm sure you're going to tell me. What?
Gator never been about that. Never been about playing no shit.
Gator don't play no shit, buddy. All right? Just letting you know.
Pimps don't cry either, so come on with it.
We'll see. We got about 48 hours or 4 days, and then we will know the answer to this one
X's
day.
On the calendar? Is that what you're telling me, Nate?
No.
Put X's on the calendar?
Again, the trash talking on Twitter on Sunday is going to be fantastic.
But again, what this segment is not just for week 9. This is going forward. Jorge, you alluded to that you thought just this week, and that maybe going forward that he could be a money play. But we're going to see. Let's look at the last one here, and CJ Gardner-Johnson with the Eagles. Hollywood, he has been nothing short of phenomenal in a lot of leagues. First of all, man, if the Eagles haven't just had wealth upon wealth, because the Saints could really use someone, a playmaker like Gardner-Johnson right now. But they gave up, on him. And he has turned in what I would consider a money first, half of the season. What do you think for the second half?
Yeah, I completely agree with you on the first half, right? He's been straight money. And I think for the rest of the season, he's money as well. It's all about the opportunities, and it's all about the volume, right? And he's getting both of them. Volume, opportunities. He'll get that for the rest of the year, and that right there alone makes him fantasy relevant. They don't have anybody really challenging him on their depth chart. If you look at it, they're who's going to challenge him, right? That's the question. I mean, you can get all the volume and the reps you want, but when you look depth-wise, nobody's challenging him right now. So despite how terrible he plays or what he does, if you don't have anybody behind you, you're kind of secure, right? Fantasy-wise, I think that's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody that's pretty talented, but not a superstar. And when we think of this, we're thinking of corners most likely, because if you're a Deion Sanders, you're starting, but nobody's going to target you, right? So you kind of want somebody to target you a little bit. So you kind of want to be, and I think that's where he is.
That's exactly where he is. He's actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he is among safeties, the one of the top 2 or 3 most targeted safety. I think he's fifth. He's fifth at 28 in 7 games.
So dynasty wise, I'm not buying in. I'm pumping the brakes on him because we've seen time and time again, over and over, draft, free agency, trades, whatever. I know the trade deadline just passed. So, but next year you got the draft, you got free agency. So they're going to look to upgrade. In my opinion, I think they will. But for now, he's the Band-Aid. And Band-Aid players are good in fantasy. That's kind of what you want. They're good enough to be starters, but they're bad enough that they can be replaced. I think that's exactly where he's at rest of the season. I like him. Dynasty, I'm out.
All right. So, yeah, we'll see with CJ going forward. I'm a big fan of what he's done. Jorge, real quick little trivia for you in case you didn't know. There's one player in the NFL right now that has 4 interceptions, at least 4 interceptions, and at least 1 sack. And I'm guessing you can probably guess that player.
You're guessing incorrectly. Let's see here.
CJ Gardner Johnson. It was who we were just talking about. So I kind of thought I led that up on a pedestal for you, but I understand that, you know what? I like to throw trivia at you that you wouldn't think it's so easy.
I'm not good at the easy stuff, Nate. I'm good at the complicated stuff. 2 + 2 is hard for me. So what can I say?
Well,
not really. That's a bit of an extreme example, but you get what I'm saying.
I don't think anybody really thought you didn't know 2 + 2, but do they know who your play of the week at defensive line may be? Because I don't.
Sure, absolutely. So I wrote about him last week as a play in my ADP starts article, and I think he has the potential to do it again. I'm talking about Uchenna Nwosu coming off a great performance versus the New York Giants, the ECR for Week 9, DL 26. What I really like about him is his run playability and his tackling. The past 3 weeks, he's led all edge rushers and total tackles and run play stops on the season. He leads the team in total pressures during that time, turning 13 pressures into 3 sacks, according to PFF, averaging close to 15 points per game in the past 3 weeks. Here's the thing, going against Arizona, and one might be wondering, oh my God, but they're playing against Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray is fine and fast, and he can get around and avoid tackles. I've already seen Nwosu do it, getting a sack a couple weeks ago, as well as a tackle for a loss and 3 solo tackles against the running game. So he is by far the most productive edge rusher for the Seattle Seahawks in the past 3 weeks, close to a month. And again, I've seen him do it against Arizona, so I see no reason why you can't roll with him this week.
I like him personally. I like going forward, especially. I think some of the matchups that we see in line, and we know that Seattle's somehow better than what I think we expected, and that's given him an opportunity to be able to rush the passer because they're putting teams in a pass situation. Never thought I'd be saying that about the Seahawks this year. Who do you not like in this week?
So I was looking over the numbers here for edge rushers for the Eagles, especially coming off of the left side, and it really had come down to Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat. And I know we make fun of Hassan. We this season have made fun of Hassan Reddick being kind of like a flash in the pan. He'll do nothing for you, erupt for a 30-point game, and then do nothing for you, and then so on and so forth. But when you look at the actual performance of Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick over the past month, you know, you're seeing one go down and one rise, and you're seeing that in terms of production, and you're seeing that with Hassan Reddick. Therefore, I'm fading Josh Sweat this week going forward. Yes, the right tackle for the Texans has given up 9 pressures over the past month, which is the most amongst all the offensive linemen for Houston. He hasn't given up any sacks either. And combine that with the play of Reddick, I just see him being more of a force, you know, this outside linebacker, this defensive lineman / linebacker hybrid. I just see him playing a lot more. I see him getting a lot more opportunities going forward than Sweat. So it sucks because I was a big Josh Sweat fan heading into the season. I hope he would continue on, but for IDP purposes, it's becoming the Reddick show on the left end for Philadelphia. So fading Josh Sweat this week, the DL 27.
No, that's fair. I think that if there's going to be one area, not every person on the Philadelphia front line can't get a sack. I mean, we assume so, at least they can't. We know Javon Hargrave is going to get 2. just because I'm going to will that into existence, but we shall see. At the linebacker position, I got to tell you guys, I mentioned it earlier. I'm going to fade Roquan Smith. Consensus, Fantasy Pros LB2 right now. I think that's not updated completely, because I think a lot of the community is going to probably agree that Monday night's tricky in that not getting up to speed. They have the bye the following week. Why put them in a situation that they, number one, I believe they can win even without necessarily having to have Roquan play a heavy amount. I think they can beat the Saints, even with Patrick Queen there, and he'll get plenty of play. I think you'll see 50% of the snaps there, but I don't think that's enough to give me that LB1 finish, even though I think that there's upside going forward. We're not talking about going forward. We're just talking about this week strictly. And the Saints historically against linebackers, while they've been okay in terms of total point production, I just don't see that. I mean, they've been really good against linebackers realistically, but not when a person that's gotten less than 50% of the snaps. It's been full-time role work. Obviously, Michael Walker, Devin White. You have to go down to find a person like, even a Cody Barton at 100% or close to wasn't necessarily putting up tons of points. The ironic one of all the players against the Saints that actually did well, if this doesn't tell you that it's a void, if you're a good player against the Saints, probably means you're not going to do well. When Isaiah Simmons is scoring 30 points against the Saints, that means that something effed up happened. I don't buy it. But it's mostly just it's a snap count thing. Hollywood's mentioned that a couple different times. Opportunity, situation, who's going to be there, snap count. I don't care what anybody says. We've heard people talking about it that, oh, no, being on the field doesn't equate to more fantasy points. I don't buy that for one bit. I'm pretty certain that if you're on the field, you have a chance to score. Speaking of a person who's going to be on the field a lot, Hollywood, this will be our matchup of the week. The Tennessee Titans and the Kansas City Chiefs. There is no doubt that a linebacker against Tennessee Titans should see plenty of work when you're trying to tackle Derrick Henry. What we've seen in the past, though, how can you not? Here's the crazy thing about that, though, guys, is when you look at the linebackers against Tennessee, it hasn't exactly been this, 30-point production each week. Week one, you didn't get hardly anybody, but it was new. It was the Giants. Tay Crowder, come on, get out of here. Week two, Tremaine Edmonds put up 20. Matt Milano put up nearly 30. Week three, you didn't have, Jayon Brown, the Raiders didn't have much. You have to really go ahead.
You're thinking Tannehill's in charge too. We saw what happened last week when he was out, right? And Malik Willis was in. Mm-hmm. It was Derrick Henry or nothing, right? All in or nothing.
You're so bad.
And if Tannehill can't go again this week and they're putting Malik Willis in, Nick Bolton.
Well, and that's what I'm alluding to.
He's straight freaking fire this week against Henry.
But
Henry's going to get the carries. He's going to get 25, 30 carries, and Bolton is going to be in. He's going. Let's face it. He's going to be in on. Oh, geez. 85, 90% of those touches that Henry gets one way or another, he's going to be a factor in those, whether he makes the tackle or not. The opportunities are there.
Well, and that's what I'm getting to, is that he had that last week. We saw that, but the problem was
it was squeaking his damn toy or whatever. My apologies.
It's okay. It was the Houston linebacking core that couldn't make a tackle. They missed 20% of the tackles. So the people are going to look at Tennessee and say, their points against a linebacker was poor, but this is Nick Bolton. So yes, Nick Bolton is in store for a great week. I love it. All right, now he's the LB19. I think he'll finish.
Nick Bolton is way better than Christian Harris versus
the
same freaking running back.
Yep.
Man, I just don't see that there's any way that Nick Bolton doesn't have a big week this week.
Exactly.
That's just my opinion.
Well, it's obviously my opinion too, because that's who my play of the week is Nick Bolton. So who's your play of the week at defensive back?
So at defensive back, this is a guy that I've kind of been looking at the last few weeks. So I'm going to go with Geno Stone, Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's probably saying, who the hell are you talking about? Chuck Clark is the strong safety. They drafted Kyle Hamilton, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had Marcus Williams to begin the season before he got hurt. And the instant reaction when Williams got hurt was, okay, here we go. Kyle Hamilton, right? No, it's been Geno Stone. And he stepped in and he has done an excellent job for them. 100% of the snap count the last 2 weeks. And in the last 2 weeks, he's had 14 tackles with 12 of those being solos the last 2 weeks. And I went and looked today and I was like, wow. He's available in a lot of leagues. I picked him up in a couple of leagues that I'm in. Well, I love Kyle Hamilton, right? I think he's just a little bit young, a little bit raw still, super talented, but it's a telltale sign that Geno Stone, who's this is his third year or fourth year, he's getting to play next to Chuck Clark. That's huge. And the fact that he can produce, that's even bigger. So for me, go get Geno Stone right now. Don't even question it. Go get him because he's getting the tackle numbers. He's playing 100% of snaps. He's getting the opportunities. He's getting the tackle numbers, and when he gets those, they're usually solos. So, yeah, I'm all in on him right now.
He's been great. He's been in my waiver wire article the last 2 weeks of the now, and it's keeps paying off. Who's not going to pay off this week?
Whew. You know what? I've got to eat some freaking crow here because before the season started, I was probably higher than anybody on him, right? And it's just not panned out. It's still not working out, but that's Xavier McKinney for the Giants. Julian Love has been the guy. They brought in some other pieces, and until I can see something from him, I'm going to have to pump the brakes. I mean, he's a huge disappointment versus what his expectations was for this year. It's just not been there. I mean, he's had some decent games and scored some decent points, but what you were thinking, especially me, what I was expecting from him, he's shit the bed. Basically, he has really shit the bed. I would rather have a Julian Love versus a Xavier McKinney right now. And I don't know what you do with him, right? Because if you're like me, you probably have a lot invested in him in trades. Even a couple of years ago, you probably invested a lot in him in acquiring him, draft or whatever. So I think you're kind of in a hold pattern right now. You're hoping going forward, this is the aberration. He's only getting better. This is the floor. The ceiling's yet to come because you can't trade him for nothing and get value back. So he's a big name, which is not everything, right? That's not everything, but I think you got to hold him right now and hope the best is yet to come.
Yeah, his big weeks have been pretty much supported by just big plays. He hasn't done much in terms of heavy tackle volume. His biggest week was week 6 against Baltimore. We had 9 total tackles, 5 solo, but nothing else. Biggest point total production was 12 points back in week 3, where he had a pass defense and 6 total tackles. Everything else has been 2 tackles, 3 tackles, 3 tackles, 5 tackles with no interceptions. And here he was my pick to potentially lead the league in interceptions. But, we're all wrong about a couple things. I want to know what you guys are going to be right about this week, where we do our sack lunch prediction. We have a player each. Since we only have a couple minutes left, realistically, all you got to do is tell me. and I'm just going to write it down. And we'll know real quick. There's no reason to defend or deny or say why. It's just simply a name. Jorge, who are you putting out for? What's that called? Where they the Hunger Games thing? They
tribute. Who's my tribute?
Yeah. Who's your tribute? Thank you.
Hey, no problem. Yannick Ngakoue, go Terps.
Boom.
Did you want an explanation, or are you just joking about it?
I was just kind of joking, but you can give me one. I'd like to hear how Yannick Ngakoue is going to have 2 sacks and no tackles somehow.
Exactly. Well, the Pats have been allowing the past month a total of 20 total pressures and 4 sacks. Yannick is boom or bust. This is boom week for him.
Boom week for Yannick. Hollywood, who is your boom play?
I'm going with Matt Judon for the Patriots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go with Matt Judon.
I know he really
Leads the league in sacks. Yep.
first 5 weeks, 2 sacks. So the first 5 weeks, he's had at least 1 sack every week. He had the big 2.5 sack output versus Chicago. Now he's getting Indianapolis, and they got Sam Ehlinger. For me, this is a no-brainer. I mean, he averages at least 5 tackles against them, and he's got basically a rookie quarterback that he's going to be facing. So, for me, this is it.
Love it.
This could be a 3-sack game from him.
That'd be something.
Ooh.
I heard 3 sack. Man, he's one up, and you Mike.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to go there. I think this could be a 3-sack game for him right here.
Well, Matt Judon clearly is a Fantasy and Frames, one of the favorites there. It's been impressive. Jorge, I was listening to Move the Sticks, Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks having their podcast, and they went on and
Love that show. Love it.
Top 5 dynamic defensive players. Matt Judon made that list, and
Nice.
Bucky went on to talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Judon, and it was wonderful. So my sack, and I'm gonna one up the difficulty level, and I'm gonna take it interior, and I'm gonna go with my guy for the week, Javon Hargrave, because I just think that matchup,
Ooh.
Kenyon Green.
Ooh.
Kenyon Green, I mean, there's not much else I need to say other than 20 pressures allowed over the past 4 games. Javon Hargrave over the past 2 games has been nothing short of dynamic with a win rate, 18% in each one of the last 2 games, 16% pressure rate in those same games. We're seeing this rotation to keep everybody healthy, and there's no doubt that this game is going to be just an absolute blowout when you have a Houston Texans team that will probably not have Nico Collins, will probably not have Brandon Cooks, will have to try to play catch up in the second half. And I think it's just going to be pin your ears back and get at them. I'm seeing team pressures for the Eagles hovering around 25. That's my prediction for the week. And Javon Hargrave will get a sack and a half and have about 4 or 5 total tackles. He'll finish as a firm LB2-3 from the defensive tackle position, which will pay dividends. So let's hope that pans out, especially for those defensive tackle leagues. Like I know a lot of us like playing.
Quick question: you mentioned him? What are you doing with Nico Collins?
Nah, nothing.
Because I have him in a couple leagues, and I thought he would do much better than what he's done. And oof, I'm paying the price right now. I'm like, what the hell?
That is a nasty one, and I'll tell you. Nor did I expect the Shoot the Gap podcast to end with the name Nico Collins, but that's what we're here for, to help each other up, no matter what it may be. If it's an IDP question,
the unexpected, so
you are the unexpected. And on that note, Jorge, Hollywood, excellent show, you guys. Appreciate all the content. Love being back on with you guys. I had to miss last week for, hockey game, which wasn't even that great. But this was wonderful. So much better than that. And I love hockey, but we had, it was a good time.
You're
so
simpleton. We know.
I am very simple. Very,
That's
very
horrible.
That's okay. I like being simple. Simple is much better than
Why is
complex.
that horrible? Why is that horrible?
For
Just
Jorge,
busting his balls just because. Okay, whatever.
Man, that is okay. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
I mean, it's Chiefs week.